This week we're going to begin working on our Latin song. The name of this lecture is Beautiful Cuba. I was fortunate on my sabbatical to go to Cuba for the first time ever on a musical tour of the island. I had lived in Jamaica for 6 years, so I had flown over the island, flown over Cuba 46 times or something like that. And I always looked down on the plains of Cuba as I was flying over it, and I wondered, because the landscape is in some ways similar to Jamaica, and I always wondered what it would be like in Cuba. Finally, I got to land. It's very close to where I live. I can leave my house right here in the morning and be in Cuba by 1 p.m. in the afternoon. So here I am flying down into that sweet, warm heat of Cuba into Havana. At 1 p.m. I'm landing. It's incredibly close to the East Coast here, and so from the second I stepped foot in Havana and then toured all around the island down to Trinidad de Cuba, to Santiago de Cuba, to Baracoa, it was like 3 weeks in a dream or 2 weeks in a dream, touring Cuba and hearing music in all different parts of the island. I got this clave in Cuba. It's made of a nice heavy wood, and one of the features of Cuban music that we're going to be adding to our songs is this pattern, which is the clave pattern. This is the piece of wood, is the wood block here is actually called the clave, and the pattern is called the clave. We have done so far the tresillo pattern, which is like the first half of the clave. Now this pattern comes from Africa. I heard this pattern all over Africa when I was in Africa. And once it reaches Cuba, it is then called the clave, which is the key. It's the key to the music. It locks the music together. And somehow this African guide pattern has a mystical quality that locks the music together. Often when Cuban music gets going, the clave will become obscured and it will disappear into the mix, or no one will actually be playing it, but all the patterns are locked to and around the clave. The side of the timbales might be doing this pattern. Other instruments might be doing this pattern. All these different things are going to be happening in the music, which I will demonstrate for you. I'll play for you some examples in class. So the whole thing about Cuba, I thought maybe it would be similar to Jamaica, and it is not at all. The language is completely different. The way people move is completely different. The Spanish influence and the flamenco influence and the Spanish classical music over the top of this churning African music of the soil, which is underneath. You have the indigenous population, particularly around Baracoa, and on that end of the island, the opposite end from Havana. It's also a large island. It took us 2.5 hours to fly from Baracoa to Havana. It's huge. I had no idea how large it is. I think someone told me it's the same size or similar size as from Miami to Washington. It's a large island. I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but it's just a phenomenal place, and it was like every day was a new discovery in music. Tons of live music all over the island. The people are just incredible. I highly recommend going to Cuba if you can. So we're going to be putting together our song this week based on some Cuban rhythms, and we're going to strip right back down to the tresillo again, that bass pulse. And this time though, instead of doing major 1-4-5, we're going to be doing minor 1-4-5 chords, which is going to change the tenor of what we're doing, and there'll be a piano lesson on those. So I'm very excited for this next unit, and we're going to strip back down to our basic pattern again and rebuild perhaps change tempo, faster or slower, and rebuild now into our Latin song.